Hi, welcome to the third lesson of this series. I have already posted 2 earlier lessons. If you are coming in for the first time and have not seen the other 2 lessons, please go to my channel and look at those lessons as well. It is worthwhile looking at all these things in a particular sequence. When you meet someone, you first read them and then you get introduced to them. We have covered greeting in the first 2 lessons. In this lesson, we will cover introduction. We will use some phrases which are used for introduction. We will also cover a few simple sentences to describe about ourselves. The Japanese phrase used for introducing yourself to a stranger is hajimemashite. Please note the second I which comes towards the end is silent, mashite, not mashite, and the T at the end of the is pronounced as if it is TH. Also remember the pronunciation of the vowels A, E, U, A and O. Okay? So hajimemashite is perhaps more phonetic than the English script. Anyway, we will use the Romaji as described in many Japanese books. Hajimete means first. So hajimemashite literally means we are meeting for the first time. This is important. You use it only for the first time. You should not keep saying hajimemashite to the same person every time we meet him. Maybe 1 year after your first introduction, you meet him a second time. You should not use hajimemashite. It is only used once for each stranger you meet. Hajimemashite is followed by dozo yoroshiku. Dozo yoroshiku means I am pleased to meet you. You meet a person, the other person says hajimemashite, you say dozo yoroshiku, or you say hajimemashite and the other person says dozo yoroshiku. It's okay. In fact, you can also say hajimemashite and dozo yoroshiku both together yourself. There is nothing wrong about this. You first say hajimemashite and then only say dozo yoroshiku. While the phrase hajimemashite is to be used to a new person, to a particular person only once, you can keep repeating dozo yoroshiku any number of times. Every time you meet him, you can say, I am pleased to meet you. Okay? So there is nothing wrong. So hajimemashite is to be used once. Dozo yoroshiku is to be used any number of times. Hajimemashite is uttered along with a bow. You place your palms on your thighs, bend at the hip with the upper body straight. You bend to about 30 degrees. You are now able to touch the thighs, and that's the angle. That's the posture. So, bowing first is a mark of respect to the other person. You certainly should bow in response, and not bowing can be construed as an insult. Then, after uttering hajimemashite, dozo yoroshiku and all that, you exchange visiting cards. You present your card with both your hands, hold the card with both your hands, and show it to the person in such a way that he is able to read your name on it. So that's the posture. That's the physical gesture with which you present your card. Now let us move on to some simple sentences. When you get introduced, it is not just I am pleased to meet you that you want to say. You also want to say something more. You want to say who you are. So the first simple sentence we will introduce you to is Watashi wa Ram desu. Ram here stands for a name. You should use your name when you say Watashi wa. Watashi means I. Okay? This means am, is, are, etc. And in this context it is am. I am Ram. This is what you want to say. And you say that as Watashi wa Ram desu. Okay, general format is Watashi wa your name desu. Okay, you remember in English your order in which the subject, verb and object come is subject, then followed by verb and then followed by object. In Japanese language, first you have the subject, then the object, and the verb follows at the end. In fact, the subject object verb structure is the same in Indian languages also. Okay, so you first rewrite your English sentence I am Ram as I Ram am. If you are trying to do word-to-word translation from Indian languages, you don't have to do this jugglery, because the sequence in which the words appear in Indian language is going to be the same. You can literally translate each and every word and perhaps get a translated sentence. Whereas in English, you need to restructure that, reorder them. So watashi means I, we, me. Okay, for all the three, watashi is the one which is used. This is, am, are. For all these three, you use this. This is the verb. The va that comes after watashi, watashi va, that va is actually an indicator of the subject. It is a subject indicator. Okay. One of the things to remember is in Japanese language, the verbs do not change with the gender, and they do not change with singular and plural, and there is also no difference between first person, second person and third person. As far as tense is concerned, present tense and past tense are there, but there is no future tense. You use the present tense itself for the future. So this is a very important difference between Japanese verbs and even Indian language verbs. In many of the Indian language verbs, these variations that we talked of are present. Now let us consider asking a question. You take a sentence and add ka to the end of it, then it becomes a question. That is the way Japanese questions are. For example, anata wa Kishi-san desu ka? It means, are you Mr. Kishi? The general format of this is anata wa, his name, san desu ka. Now, anata means you. So, last time we saw watashi. Watashi meant I, and here anata means you. We said Kishi-san. Kishi-san actually means Mr. Kishi. San stands for Mr., Mrs., Miss, etc. So when you say anata wa Kishi-san desu ka, you are asking, are you Mr. Kishi? Actually, the structure is similar to you are Mr. Kishi and followed by a ka. Your translation is you are Mr. Kishi and then add a ka to it, then it becomes are you Mr. Kishi. So that's the way it goes. Now discussing this structure of the question further, are you Mr. Kishi is the question. In English, the order is verb, subject and then followed by object. Now you change the order as for Japanese language, subject, object and then verb, and then add a ka to it. Now if you change the order, are you Mr. Kishi, if you change the order, you Mr. Kishi are is the way it becomes. So you put a question ka after that, and that's the way it translates. Anata wa Kishi-san desu ka. Now this is the way a question is structured. Now Mr. Kishi has a way of answering it. Hai, watashi wa Kishi desu. Note, he is not going to use san for himself. Hai means yes. Yes, I am Kishi, is what he says. Suppose he is not Kishi, you are mistaken and you went and asked Mr. Nishi and wanted to know whether he is Kishi. He will say, Iye, watashi wa Nishi desu. Iye is no, I am Nishi. Iye, watashi wa Nishi desu. This is the way he will answer. So we learnt 10 more phrases in this lesson. You first said hajimemashite, which means I am meeting you for the first time. Then we learnt dozo yoroshiku, which means I am pleased to meet you. Watashi, which means I. Wa, which is a subject indicator. Desu, which stands for is, am and are, which is a verb. Anata, which is you. San, which stands for Mr., Mrs. and Miss. Ka, which is a word for connoting something into a question. Hai means yes. Ye means no. These are the words we learnt in this. So that brings me to the end of this lesson. Hope you are enjoying it. Please post your comments. Look for more simple sentences in the next lesson. Deva Mata.